about the CPI that just dropped, and it's a lot better than what we expected. Okay, so personally, my own expectation, of course, I actually put up at a 0.5% month over month. Of course, a lot of banks out there, especially like Morgan Stanley, came out with 0.7%. Of course, with the Cleveland Feds actually coming out with expectation of 0.7% month over month. Personally, myself, I said I think somewhere in the 0.5% would be a lot better. And of course, I also said something along the line, which is if we do not have a drastic increase in a particular index, that would be a lot better and we can see a lot more improvement going forward. However, of course, we have to talk about what actually happened in this CPI report. By the way, let's get down to it, okay? I'm going to make this quick. This is going to be a quick summary for you guys. All right. CPI index October 2022. Okay. CPI went up by 0.4% month over month, which was pretty good. Of course, if right now, if you were to look at the SPY, you look at the Dow Jones, you look at your NASDAQ, all of them up by a lot. Right now, my entire portfolio is up by about 8% or so. Right now, the S&P is up about 3% or so. So pretty sure that we are going to be having a pretty good market. But of course, we cannot forget about the fact that we're still in rough waters right now, okay? Having one good CPI does not really get us out of the woods just yet. Okay, we have to talk about the crypto market that just happened with what FTX just blew up. We have midterm elections that's still ongoing at the moment, seeing how Republicans is going to be winning the House. Senate is kind of still half and half. And of course, there's still going to be a lot of macroeconomy headwinds going on the way as well. So just having one very, very good report, well, I won't even say very, very good. Having one particularly better report than expected does not actually change a lot of things. And I'm going to explain to you at the end of this video. But of course, this video is also sponsored by Weibo, but more on that later. All right, so anyway, let's move on. First, okay, which is the index for shelter contributed over half of the monthly all items increase, with the indexes for gasoline and food also increasing. However, the natural gas index did decrease, which is a very, very good thing. I talked about this before because I thought that, we need to see natural gas index actually going down. Kind of expected shelter not to take up over half of the monthly all item increases. However, since that is the case, I did raise it up as a possible concern that we might actually be having as well. Okay, so the food index increased at 0.6% over the month, with the food at home index rising 0.4%. The index of all item, less food and energy, rose by 0.3%. I do want to talk about this a little bit, which is core inflation. Okay, the reason why we have core inflation is because food prices and energy prices are usually the index that kind of have a huge volatility range, okay? And at the same time, we have to look at food and energy. Those two are the one that is usually the most persisting out of all the other indexes as well, okay? Basically, food prices have actually been going up at a solid 1 to 2% every single month for the past year. Okay, so food prices definitely is a persisting inflationary factor. But in terms of energy-wise, it's easier for us to actually tell because energy, you talk about fuel oil, talking about your natural gases, talking about electricity, things like that. All these are basically costs that are actually being used up, and prices actually fluctuate a lot. So we have to take those out and then get the core CPI. So usually when we actually see a core CPI very, very close to the actual CPI numbers, this usually kind of prints out a very, very good picture for us. Okay, because we do not want to see, for example, a 0.9% increase month over month, and we see a 0.2% core CPI increase. Because when this actually happens, it means that we are in an energy crisis, which we kind of are, or we're in a food crisis, which we are most likely going to be getting into in about 2 years or so. Personally speaking, not financial advice, not food advice. But these are the things that we are going to be a little bit more worried about. And of course, over here, you can see indexes which declined in October included the used cars and trucks, medical care, apparel, and airline fares indexes. I'm very, very happy to see that because when we talk about used cars and trucks, let's be honest, 1 year ago in October, in November, Okay, we are seeing insane volatility for used cars and trucks because we had a whole chip shortage situation. A lot of manufacturers are basically trying to get their hands on chips before they can even come up with all those vehicles out there, which is why used cars and trucks was going up crazy. We are looking at like 10% month over month, something crazy like that. And finally, I think it's quite safe to say that we are finally on a deceleration for inflationary pressure on used cars and trucks. Next up, we have to talk about medical care. I think, of course, with the whole entire pandemic play that we actually had 2 years ago, well, basically last year as well, the whole pandemic was actually very, very stressful for the whole entire economy. And of course, that's also very, very stressful on medical equipment and medical insurance, medical everything, actually. Anything to do with healthcare is probably going to be going up in price. So finally, seeing that all these indexes are starting to decline in October, pretty good thing. Apparel and airline, well, okay, let's just split this two up. Apparel going down in October, I think that a lot of time is most likely that the demand for it is kind of like loosening off. So I don't think there's going to be much for us to actually talk about it. However, we have to talk about airline fares, okay? Because I think about 4 or 5 months ago, the CPI index for airline fares, it was actually going up and up and up. And I talked about it as well. Okay, the reason why airline fares are going to be going up and up and up is because the whole entire world is recovering. And when we have a recovering world, a recovering economy, people are going to fly. People are going to fly for work. People are going to fly for leisure. People are going to fly just to meet people that they want. Okay, people are going to fly. And because when people want to fly, airlines have to increase their prices because they were actually all the way all-time low. However, we have to take into consideration that all these airlines that needs to fly would be fuel. They need energy for them to actually fly. And with an energy crisis, they have to inevitably pass on the cost over to the consumers, which is us who are buying tickets from all these airline fares. And which is why airline fares indexes basically have to go up. Okay, so finally, seeing that all these indexes are actually going down is a pretty good news overall. Okay, just look at this chart. This whole entire chart is abysmal. Seeing from this 1.3 drop all the way to 0% month over month. But yeah, hopefully we start to see deflation. Okay, I want to see bars going downwards. I want to see bars below the graph. That's what we want to see. Okay, let's move on to all this. Yeah, okay, food index increased by 0.6% in October. Again, like I said, I don't think that this is going to be a very, very good thing. However, it is a lot better than expected because according to my own expectation, I said it before, I feel that it is a lot better for us to have an increase across all indexes at a fair amount rather than having one index going crazy amount because that's going to shake up the whole entire economy. Okay, so in contrast, the index for fruits and vegetables, a subset of food, actually fell by 0.9%. So of course, I like to see all this kind of thing. Next up, we have to talk about energy. Energy actually increased 1.8% in October, which I'm kind of surprised because personally, I thought that energy was going to be going up by like 3% or 4%, especially after we heard about what happened with all the diesel that's being manufactured and actually in a huge lacking, especially in the Western countries. Okay, and of course, if you actually look at Europe, they're having the coldest winter ever because energy prices are skyrocketing to ridiculous prices, and not everyone can actually afford energy. And of course, when the winter actually hits hard, people need warmth, people need shelter, and we have to talk about shelter as well. Okay, so let's look into shelter. And of course, you can see all items less food and energy, which is your core, raising by 0.3%. Pretty good. All right, so now we move on to the numbers, okay? So before we actually move on to the numbers, let's talk about Weibo. So of course, Weibo basically came up with this insanity, basically. Okay, they thought that, instead of giving you fractional shares for signing up or with my link down in the description box down below, okay, instead of giving you fractional shares for signing up, they basically said, we're going to give you cash. Okay, we're going to give you $150 cash voucher. And you might think, oh, it's just a cash voucher. You cannot really use it. No, that's wrong. That's wrong. It's basically cash. Okay, so what they're going to do is all you have to do is just sign up using my link down below, deposit $2,000. Of course, this is only for my Singaporean audience. Okay, deposit $2,000 into your Weibo account. Afterwards, just do one buy trade on any US stock or ETF and one buy option on any US option. After which, just keep your initial balance of $2,000 for 30 calendar days. And afterwards, you're just going to get $850 into your account. Okay, and this is where it's actually a lot better, because once you actually get $150, you can choose to invest it, or you can just immediately withdraw it out as cash. Okay, no obligation. This is basically free money for Singaporeans out there. This is 210 Singapore dollars. Okay, free money. Go and get it fast. Link it down in the description box down below. Okay. Anyway, back to this. Okay, fuel oil. Okay, fuel oil up by 19.8%, which is why this was one of the thing that I was a little bit more worried about. Okay, because I thought that, seeing that it was at 1.8%, maybe energy prices wasn't that bad. But then afterwards, I look at the fuel oil, I'm like, okay, I was clearly mistaken. 19.8%, that's huge. That is huge. And of course, I think that's the kind of part of my expectation to be fair. So nothing actually out of the ordinary there. Used cars and trucks down by negative 2.4%. I love the numbers. Airline fares down by negative 1.1%. Hopefully, personally, I think that my own thinking is that airline fares will most likely be going down even more, because energy prices is probably going to be shaking downwards more than going upwards. So if fuel price actually come down a little bit more, airline fares will definitely be going down in price as well. So that's our current expectation. All right. So we move on. Okay, food. I think there's nothing much that we can actually cover in the food segment. Okay, we have to go over to the next segment, which would be apparel. Okay, honestly, I talked about apparel earlier, kind of layman term. Apparel in general, okay, just look at the last column over here. You can see that 90% of them are actually in the negatives. Okay, men apparel, boy apparel, women and girls apparel, footwear, and jewelry, all of them. Okay, all of them are basically in the negatives. Okay, so I think apparel going downwards kind of just show that the supply is starting to catch up with the demand, which is good. Or the other way around, where demand is actually kind of slowing down towards the supply. Either way, it doesn't really matter to us. Something that actually caught my eye, which is smartphone. Okay, smartphone is down by 5.9% month over month. Something that's actually crazy. If you look at the first line, which is October 2021 to October 2022, okay, smartphone actually dropped 22.9% in terms of the pricing. Okay, so you kind of look at Apple, you kind of have to look at Samsung, you kind of have to look at all the different HP, Dell, people who are manufacturing smartphones. Prices are going down. Okay, so of course, when we actually look at such numbers, it's kind of important for us, because when you start to see that, when their suppliers are actually charging them more, manufacturing costs are actually going up, freight, shipping are all going up, and if the actual prices of all these things are actually going down, does that actually affect the margins? So that's something that we have to actually look at as well. Next up, we have to look at the rent of primary residence. So we're talking about shelter over here. Okay, the rent of primary residence up by 0.7%. Lodging away from home is up 4.9%. Lodging away from home, including hotels and motels, is up 5.6%. And this is what the whole entire news is talking about, how shelter is actually one of the biggest reasons why all these indexes are actually going up in price. I think this is very, very concerning. But at the same time, if you are talking about any other index that should be taking up most of where the inflation is actually coming from, and for it to be shelter, personally, I think this is one of the better outcome. Okay, because if it is going to food, we're going to get a food shortage. If it is going to be to used cars and trucks, it's going to be jobs in general. Okay, you're going to talk about rental cars, you're talking about commercial vehicles, we're talking about all these different things. Okay, we're talking about energy prices, that's energy crisis in general. Okay, that's going to be very, very dangerous as well. But when you talk about shelter, you cannot really say that there's a shelter crisis, because everybody who had a house or have a house or stay in a house are still going to be staying in those houses. Okay, it's not going to be a shelter crisis. It's not as if people are going homeless because of this sudden increase in prices of all this shelter. It simply means that rental prices are going up. It also means that real estate prices might actually be appreciating in price as well. So of course, personally, I think that this is actually one of the better indexes for us to actually have a huge inflationary number on. Okay, so moving on, health insurance. I talked about this as well. Healthcare in general, things are starting to fall a little bit. We might actually see an inflection point downwards. Okay, over here, personally, I just wanted to highlight this out for myself, which is postage and delivery services. Postage is actually up 4.2%. Delivery services is down 1.5%. I like to see postage and delivery services because this actually show us more towards the demand of people wanting to buy items. So I would like to see this as a consumer spending sort of matrix. When we see postage actually going up, it means that people are still spending money. Okay, delivery service actually going down. It could be that people are still spending money. However, because they have to actually cut costs, they have to cut labor costs and things like that. And because of that, maybe prices actually go down. I'm not very sure how that actually works, but seeing how postage is still at 4.2% month over month, if you actually analyze that, that's almost like 40%. More than that, actually, like 45%, something ridiculous. So, of course, that's something that we have to actually look at as well. Okay, but yeah, CPI in general, I think that's about it. Right now, just look at the market, feels like a wonderful sight. Everything is green. I'm looking at my portfolio over here. Everything is going green. Okay, I'm currently up 9% on one of my main portfolio. So yeah, really happy about the entire thing. I don't want to drag this out any longer. I think that's the basis of this whole entire summary for CPI. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Please use my link for Webull down below. Okay, but anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. And I'll see you guys in the next one.